Welcome back to the Ben and Rush YouTube channel. Guys, S10, right? I know we've been dragging this project out. I have been humping right along on this darn unit, trying to get some progress done. I did a little bit off camera without you, just trying to get to the point of where we can actually try to start this thing. So, I'm gonna show you a couple things. I'm pretty excited. It's coming along great. I think it's gonna do everything we ever wanted it to do. So, what you'll see, last we left off is I had the intercooler sitting there, right? I did make a couple little L brackets, and I did put a piece of plate across frame. Now granted, there is some big nuts there. These nuts, got it! They're spacing her out. The reason I did that is I think what I'm gonna do is get some like rubber insulators, kind of like a, have you ever seen like the old snowmobile motor mount, something like that? Just because the frame is gonna flex separate from the body. So I want some sort of flex, right? So then we're gonna get replaced with some rubber grommets later, not today. But, turbo mounted. You see I got myself one of them minty fresh green filters. I used to be a green filter dealer for a long time, and honestly a really good product, guys. For what it's worth, if you're into something like that, plus it's green, it matches the truck. Another reason. So I did get our elbow eBay Performance 4-inch to 3-inch. You obviously see we got our blow-off valve and all that stuff mounted. That was off the mega truck. And then eventually, when this is down to Rusty's getting tuned, these two pieces of pipe are gonna get married. But for starting sake and whatnot, I wanted to get that set up anyways, right? Coolant, just an Evil Energy, just cheap coolant reservoir. Catch can, old mega truck catch can. I did go ahead and run the lines for that. You guys seen me have these welded by Rusty, put -10 bungs on our LT valve covers. I'm running over. And then I did go ahead and I did toss on some fuel lines to our fuel rails. So that's just the returns. So I'm debating on how that's gonna go, but it's kind of the layout I'm looking for. And then what else do we get done? Nothing. That's about it. So it's coming a long ways, but you guys know some of this stuff just soaks up a lot of time. So it's kind of boring to watch. You know what I mean? Like, did you really want to watch me drill holes in a piece of metal to bolt the intercooler around? But today, the goal is to get a fuel system going, right? At least get it plumbed and get it laid out to try to have this thing ready to go, because we're running out of time. We're going to Mud Jam next week, so then, by all means, you know, we're gonna be not working on the S10, so maybe we'll do a little filming out there, we'll see, but let me show you some of the other stuff we got. Whole bunch of AN stuff, this is all Evil Energy. Got a nice Y block, because we're gonna Y block to the fuel rails. Some more fittings. This dude here, this AN line, I got us a nice rubber coated, if I can get it out of the bag. All-Star Performance. That'll be our oil feed line. So you ask yourself, on an LT, where are you gonna get oil, right? So I gotta pull the intake back off, which I'm not happy about. I didn't think about this because I thought I was gonna pull it off by the oil filter like we do on the LS's a lot. But ICT Billet, who has everything, thanks guys, by the way, they sell this little block. This little block, what's important about this guy, and now granted, I should have did this, it's a 55166. It's for the LTs, it's for their valley covers specifically. So, right here on these is where your oil pressure gets your oil pressure sensor gets its feed, right? So they sell you this little adapter. We gotta take this back off the valley cover, drill a hole right here. They give us a template. It's actually pre-dimpled underneath. So we gotta pop it off, drill a 3/16 hole. That'll allow us to bolt this guy right there, which still fits under our LS7 intake. And we're gonna generate our oil feed. Then the AN line's gonna run over here. Squirter in the turbo. How freaking awesome is that? So you're gonna see us do that today. Just these small things like this, just to get this thing going. Something I'm pretty excited about. Piece of 4-inch, you know what that's for. Supposed to be stainless, looks kind of aluminized, but we're just gonna use it because we got it. Check this out. This stuff ain't cheap, guys, but it's gonna be worth it. Check this thing out. Got me a turbo action cheetah shifter. I haven't opened it yet. We're gonna open this one together. Pretty excited, guys. So the biggest reason I went with this particular shifter, our buddy Rusty had one of his mega truck, which was freaking awesome. Now I've ran a Winter's gated shifter before, and that's what we had in our mega truck. Biggest thing is, eventually, she's gonna get a trans brake. So, Let me tear this box open, I'll show you.
All right, that was a hell of a staple job, but peanuts. Oh God. All right, hell with it. Let's go for it. There it is.
I hate packing peanuts. I hate them. I hate them, I hate them, I hate them. But this is what we wanted to see, friends. This is the unit. If you guys have never seen a Cheetah shifter, all right, we're gonna show you. So the coolest part is the trans brake button is right on the shifter. And it's also a gated shifter. So if you're unfamiliar with gated, let me pop this bag open here, I'll show you real fast.
So the biggest reason why we wanted a gated shifter, and a gated shifter, you can see it's got, basically got gates. That's what these little, like, you know, the whole reason is when you're driving it, there's no room for error. So you basically, you know, so mine is a forward shift transmission currently. So you got first, second, third, right? Easy. That'll make it nice, because now granted, that is a manual valve body, so we're gonna have to shift this thing all the time. So what's the first thing you grab when you get in your truck? Not that, guys, come on now. The steering wheel and the shifter, okay? So that is why we went with a good quality shifter, but also, what's that? Trans brake button. So now, wanna do a launch? Boom, we're on. Hell yeah. So let's get this thing up in the air, and we're gonna get this fuel tank pulled out so we can get something going. You've heard me yak for about 6 minutes now, and we're done with that. Let's get the fuel tank out. You've already seen our fuel pump. Let's get some stuff going. Now we got her in the air here. So if you guys have never seen under this truck, or if you're new to the channel, we got ourselves an FTI Turbo 400 in this bad unit. We got a Hedman trans crossmotor, which is transdapped as well, however you want to look at it. This is our Tennessee Find, so she's a real clean truck. So what we're looking to do is we want to obviously get this tank down real quick, guys. We got to make sure we got clearance for our fittings up there as well, because we're going to be running them healthy AN lines. And then what's end up happening is it's probably going to run up the transmission. Oh yeah, plenty of trans tunnel room to the back of the fuel rails. But you see how Rusty left us. We have our crossover we need to make. So here's the thing. I have some stainless tubing, 2.5. We're gonna see about maybe tack welding in here, and then we gotta put a wastegate in somewhere, right? I'm unsure where that's going. We talked about running it off the turbo log manifold and just dumping it into the 4-inch out the fender, or just under the truck, right? So under the truck would be the easiest thing, kinda, maybe, we'll see. But we also are gonna see about maybe if we can tack this here today too, so. And then, yeah, fuel filter, that's going away. All these fuel lines gone. So let's get to it. You guys gotta love a rust-free truck. Man, oh man. Trying to get this fuel tank bracket off, and then we can go back to that rear strap. Rust-free didn't save me from using a damn ratchet wrench, guys. What the hell? Put this parking brake cable right in the freaking way. This old tranny jack's been putting in some work, I tell you. So we got one more 15, and I already got the hoses popped loose from the filler neck, so hopefully should be down in just a hot second. Now that Hinson Motorsports fuel pump, I'm hoping, I mean, it should fit in there pretty decent. They say it fits spot on, but if I do need any adjustments, they said to send it back, but we ain't got time for all that. So hopefully it just fits, because we do have to transfer our gas gauge over. See if we can make some magic happen. Now this dude will obviously bend out of our way, and then that front mount kind of saddles in the frame. But we still may have to pry a little bit on our filler hoses just because they were a little stuck. But I guess we're about to find out how much fuel's in this thing. Because we can't use any of this fuel anyways, we're converting it over to E, so since you're gonna become a corn burner, we're gonna just have to pump all this stuff off. If you ever wondered why you couldn't siphon fuel out of your cousin's S10 back in the day, right here's why. All right, so the fuel tank here. Okay, it's tanked, awesome, it's great, right? Look at this though, guys, I had to show you this. What in the hell is this shit? I got nylon, hose clamped to nylon. Something ain't right about that. Don't need this where we're going. Now, if you're gonna be reckless, kids, at least be reckless by yourself. You know, don't hurt nobody else, all right? So, we got our main feed line. What's nice about these pumps, hard to see, but it says an F for feed, plus 3/8 is the feed. Plus, we're just shoving it in a gas can. This thing's about half tank, so we're gonna pump her off, all right? Before we put our new pump in. The other reason, too, is obviously we're switching over to corn, so we don't wanna have, you know, 87 or whatever that is, probably like 82 by now, you know? So, this thing being a direct injected engine, if you don't already know, the LT engines are like 11.5 to 1 compression. So being real important injection, we gotta run good fuel because obviously the fuel is getting through it, you know, the intake runner into the combustion chamber versus getting fired right in. So we don't want detonation or any problems. So let's pump this garbage off here, throw it in the lawnmower or my dad's truck, you know, something. And at least when we're ready, we can dump in 10 gallons of some corn, you know? So you ask yourself, how do you know what wires to hook it to? Well, I've done enough GMs to tell you, gray is your main feed, and then the larger black wire that's just black is your ground to the pump. The black with a white stripe and the purple are your gas gauge. Honestly, GM standardized that forever ago, so it's pretty standard. Unless it's some new crazy shit with like a fuel pump control module or whatever, but let me show you what we're gonna do. We got the old jump box. We're gonna hook it to those wires and snap around and pump this unit off. All right, so the idea is not to blow up. Got our ground and our hot. Now our jump box has a shut off, so it shouldn't kick on until we turn on this switch. Ready? Oh yeah, listen to that thing work, guys. Check this out. Who said it wasn't a good fuel pump? Oh, hey, yeah, it'll be fine. It'll be fine. It's just a stock 8.1, all right? It'll run on anything. Got to make sure they're clean, you know? Now, we did cut the plug off, but obviously we're changing that with what we're doing, so justify if you need it or not before you cut that son of a bitch off. All right, snap ring off. To the inside of the tank looks pretty fair. There's a little bit of crud in there. I'm going to try to dry all that up with a rag, but all in all, for a factory 1996 tank, it's going to be just fine. So I'm going to get that cleaned up, wipe out our sealing area, and then we got to compare our original pump to our Hinson Motorsports pump and see what we got to transfer. I think we got to transfer the float over, so let's get to that. So like we were thinking, we have to transfer over the fuel level sensor. Now, the Hinson Motorsports one, basically dual 450s, and obviously the reason we're going dual 450s, guys, we want to make some steam, right? We're shooting for big numbers. On the street, I don't know, the truck realistically should make high 9s realistically, but we're gonna see about dialing her back. But the thing is, with the dual fuel pumps, we can continuously run one 450 with key on, so just like a normal car, want to run all the time. And then the second pump will command on with the Holly, basically at a certain PSI of boost, say like 3 PSI of positive pressure, it'll kick the other pump on, or 5 PSI or whatever Rusty decides to tune it to. But that way, we'll always have, you know, just the one primary pump and the secondary when we need it. And if we're ever in a pickle, we can always go in and command that second pump on to get home safely. So it does give us that option as well as dual fuel pumps for performance and for, you know, if we break down. Hopefully it doesn't happen, but looking at the fuel level sensor, it kind of just quick connects on. So in their description, we basically bolted onto the side. I just got to figure that portion of it out, but you can see these are non-adjustable. They're fixed depth, so hopefully they got it right.
Well, friends, I got our pump assembly together. This was kind of a adventure, we'll call it. So you've seen our Hinson Motorsports sending unit and stuff. So the biggest thing is I had to wire in the gas gauge, not a big deal, except for you kind of gotta jank it on there. I don't even know what to say, but they said to cut the plastic housing here and modify it and put it on here. So, I mean, it's gonna work, but it looks like absolute hell. I'm glad you want to see it. Then this showpiece of a fuel pump module, which is beautiful, I had to take and grind the absolute dog shit out of it to allow it to fit down in the hole. And then I also still had to, if you can kind of see, like right in there, I had to open up the fuel pump hole a little bit. So it does go in there now, a little trial and tribulation, but now I think we're ready to set this unit in, finally. Okay, something I always like to check on fuel pumps, especially when we're screwing around with the gas gauge. You know, I do want it to kind of work. I mean, it is drag and drive. You know, we want this to work, right? So this should be a 0 to 90 ohm sending unit. So don't mind this, it's gonna beep, but if you watch the gauge on it, so resistance, we're close to 0. Now at full, it should be around 90. Okay, so 0.91, so you can see it is working. The benefit of knowing that is that when I put it in the fuel tank, is that I can actually take that, install it, and then take the fuel tank and flip it over, and we should be able to see it go from full sweep, basically 0 to 90 ohms, right? So, something to think about when you're messing around with this universal garbage. At least that way you can know if your gas gauge is going to work accurately. So you want to mimic how the original one was installed. So we're looking at our locking pin here, and it was sitting roughly like that. So the biggest reason why that matters is because we're trying to make sure there's room for our float. So something to think about when you go to install this. But we do have our new socks on, gas gauge is working, everything's plugged in, we should be ready to drop it in the hole. Don't forget your snap ring either. Oh yeah, look at that. Going in just like factory. Guys, what a freaking unit though. Look how nice that looks in there. Now we gotta make room for the 1/2 inch and the 3/8 feed and return up to the front of that unit. So they're probably gonna run up the frame a little bit and then up the transmission. And so we're doing a little test fit, and we got the tank kind of set in there, but man, she is tight. Take a look at this. So when I bought that Hinson Motorsports fuel sending unit, they gave us some Racetronics, like low profile mail boss O-ring, but of course I'm running PTFE line and they gave it for rubber hose. But either way, tank is in and they free swivel. So as long as the other one sits in that high rib there, we're golden. But I wanted to show you something real fast. So I'm trying to size up. Now our buddy Rusty donated this to the cause. We got an Aeromotive minty fresh inline fuel filter with a hanger assembly. So I'm thinking something in the nature of like right here. So that way it'd be easily serviceable. And then on top of that, it makes our line shorter, right here, so we could easily kind of size it up, cut it, and get this line made as well. And then we just got a short one. Now before I had done the line that runs down the back of the transmission, and that's a Y block right there going to -8. So then we're going to run that back up and over along with our return to the back of that regulator. So pretty straightforward stuff. It's kind of boring, so I haven't been filming a ton of the line making. You guys have seen me do that, and I'm sure if you're dealing with this stuff, you may be familiar with that. But that way, though, I'm pretty satisfied that at least the tank is going to fit with those fittings. I was pretty worried at first just because they gave us those low-profile ones. Again, it's awesome they gave us the fittings. The problem is we're running PTFE line versus rubber style, so it is what it is. So I'm going to get to cutting that line, and I'll show you mounting that fuel filter quick. So I really want to work with this single layer frame right here. The frame doubles for just a brief moment where they connect them together, because I'm just going to drill and tap this so we can easily bolt our bracket to it. So ideally staying in single layer would be easier. So I was thinking, if you see my tape mark, kind of right here would be a decent spot. And then that way we can carry on pretty easily too. So, and it's serviceable if we ever need to get in there and change that. Now this is a 40 micron. It needs to actually be a 10 micron for the filtration purposes, but we're gonna order the right one. That's just in there for hopefully purging our fuel system's sake anyway. So let's get the drilling started. Yeah,
And like I said, we're just gonna tap into a 610. It'll be just fine. Oh yeah, you seen the big picture now? It's gonna be glorious. And there's the finished product. But give you kind of a gist of what I was working on. So basically, I did run the U-bend off here. Now granted, could I have loosened that bulkhead up and screwed around with that? Sure, but how often do you get to use a 180 bend and burn them up? So got that going. And then obviously you've seen our dash 6. Now this one here is gonna go to a rollover valve, and I'm gonna tuck it up by the filler neck. So that'll be our vent for the tank. And that way, if God forbid we roll over, hopefully not, that we have, you know, we're not fuel dumping everywhere. So, and then the return will be this guy right here. We're gonna do the same thing around a dash 6. I know 8 and 6 is kind of on the smaller side. We thought about going 10 and 8. We're just gonna play it by ear. I mean, this truck is probably gonna have a hard time hooking anyways, so until we figure out something with that, it'll be just fine. Worst case, we can fatten it up. But the biggest thing is this bulkhead is 8 regardless. Now granted, if we did put a 10 attachment here and bulk that up, we could have did that, and there's very little restriction at that point. So I don't know, we'll just try this out first, and that's an adjustment we can always make down the road if we have to. We already got the half and the 3/8, so but yeah, let's get running this other line here and I can get them all laid out and get this fuel system wrapped up. All right, friends, we got that tank in. Show you our clearances. Looking pretty darn snazzy. I mean, it is tight, don't get me wrong. But these dudes are right in the high spot of the bed. Our connector's out of the way. We got our 180 bend. So I'll show you something I did do though, is I got everything running down here. Now I'm gonna put my grounds in an easy spot. I'm gonna put them like right here or something, because obviously we want this thing serviceable. Remember, that's the whole idea. Another thing I did is we're gonna put a push connect right here. This is just a quick disconnect. Now you're saying you could have used a double AN, and I could. I didn't have one, but at least this way here, it's gonna be an O-ring fitting. I can unscrew it, screw it together. If something ever happens, I can always put a male-to-male AN. But at least that way, when we go to drop the tank, we're gonna have our grounds in the easy spot, our feed line, and our quick connect here to drop the tank out. And then we'll come up with something creative for the hot line up to the fuel pump relays. But now we get to run a couple short jumper lines down to here, and this fuel system will be plumbed. Oh yeah, you guys know what time it is. Well, friends, I jumped ahead a little bit on you. I did go ahead and wrap up the fuel lines, got a lot of that plumbing all buttoned up. You can kind of see where I tap back in here, and they do follow up the tranny. I did do a little exhaust work too. I know, guys, I'm sorry. I got a little excited with the MIG welder, and I ain't a MIG welder, all right? But I just want to show you what I got going. Rusty's gonna be a little disappointed because we're gonna do this all in, TIG stainless, and this is all stainless. Believe it or not. And I MIG'd it, I know. It'll be fine though, you won't even see it, it's under the truck. I mean, worst case, we can take it off, and I got a guy that can do some ceramic coating, but regardless. We got her hooked up here. Our O2 sensor is going on the driver's side. Realistically, Holley's run on one O2 sensor, so it doesn't really matter where it's at in the exhaust system. As long as it's in the exhaust system, there's 18 inches of pipe after it, so your exhaust gases aren't skewed. So the biggest thing is, it's there. Then we follow across. I did have to pie it in, and I merged in our wastegate right off an elbow. You can kind of see where she's going up. So obviously, if it's got to go anywhere, it makes an easy direct path straight out, right? I did run a little kick out. So obviously our wastegate's gonna dump out on the passenger side here, and I think that's a nice, clean little beveled piece of pipe, and it'll be just fine. I do have to obviously plumb it yet, and my tranny lines, I just looped them for now. We're trying to decide on what to go with. I had a front mount trans cooler. If you guys got any suggestions, what you've used and worked good for you, I mean, I'm up for it for sure. Because I thought about doing an in-frame one, but like Rusty and I were talking about, airflow is crap on those, because this is all wide open, guys. This thing, there's tons of room on this side. Or one with a fan, because I could easily put one with a fan right here up in the box area. I really don't want anything in the box. That's just my preference. If we drag and drive like we're hoping, we got more room for tires and tools and hell, even a tent if we need, right? So here's a good spot I was thinking for a remote trans cooler if we go that route. So we're probably not going up front. Another thing, we don't know where to put a battery in this thing. So if you guys have any ideas, definitely drop them in the comments. I was looking at like a Braille or
anti-gravity, but they're so damn expensive, guys. Them things are crazy money. Now, they'd be convenient. You know, Rusty and I were talking about even like some of the good AGM, like side-by-side batteries. I mean, this is an efficient engine, so it should start easily, right? So we don't need anything crazy for a battery that we know of yet. Now, granted, we do have a lot of electronic command. We have dual 450s. I mean, we do have a brushless, you know, that cooling fan that Proform with is a brushless one, so they are less amp draw. So that's a win. But, you know, a lot of other crap going on where I don't know if having, you know, that's going to be the best option. But moral of the story is the exhaust is done, so the hot side is done. Plumbing is done, right? So what I want to do to wrap this video up to get it out for tomorrow for you guys, because we did miss Tuesday. I apologize, guys. It's been a hectic week, and I'm trying to get this thing done because like a couple weeks is our event. And then we're going to Mud Jam next week, so we got a lot of stuff going on there too. But for you, we're going to get this thing on the ground, and I'm going to go ahead and purge the fuel system out. We're going to verify them 450s are working. As you seen earlier, we stopped in and got ourselves some E85. We dump into 5 gallons of that, and hopefully we're going to get our oil pressure line on for that turbo feed. And then our plumbing is done. And then next week, guys, wiring. I'm excited. Well, friends, she's starting to look like a truck again. A couple screws in that bumper was back on, but I wanted to get to the intake portion here like we talked about. So it sucks because I got it finalized other than the oil pressure sensor thing. So what we have to do, I showed you that early in the video. Like I said, that unit goes down here. The only snafu is we got to pull the fuel rails to pull the intake. So it's not that big of a deal. It's just now we're compromising or risking the O-rings again on the fuel rails. But it is what it is. We got to do it, right? So I'm going to get a quick time lapse going. I'm going to rip this intake off, and I'll chime back in when we get to that component. Okay, we're down to where we need to be. So you guys can see, if you have been not tagging along on the S10 videos here, basically we took an LT and made it a giant LS. I know it sounds stupid, but a lot of gains by doing that. So you see these ICT billet adapters to convert to your intake. Now we are running an LS7 intake. 2 reasons. Big ass throttle body from the factory, and they're cheap, and they're low. So I guess 3 reasons. Now, they do sell them for cathedral port. They do sell them for rec port. And LS7s are different because they're like a tall deck almost. So they are a little different. So that's why we went that route with an LS7 intake. Plus, the adapters were cheaper. So was the intake. So it worked out for everyone. These are the plugs, the mock plugs that plug off all the ports. Now, something I've been thinking about, guys, and let me know in the comments if you want to see this, because I think I'm going to do it on probably in the next couple builds, I'm going to do this. I've been wanting to run an LT-based engine on a Gen 3 ECM. You say, why? Well, there's a lot of reasons. On a Gen 3 computer, I can run a 4L80E, I can run a 4L60, I can run the early transmissions, right? Yes, you can buy a Holly, but we're trying to be resourceful and trying to come up with creative ideas for projects like this type of stuff, you know? This one's a little on the extremer side with that guy and the intercooler and all that stuff, but think of a budget build. We take an L83, just a stock 14 and newer 5.3, we make it port injection. You know, we put an LS style intake on it. We buy a Lingenfelter box. Here's the trick, right? That's the variable. You're like, Brian, Gen 4 and Gen 5 are 58X, right? But if you watch Jeremy's video for the Pace Truck, what we did was we used what? We used a Lingenfelter box on a Gen 4 to take the 58 to 24. Now you're like, man, you're wasting money. You could just buy a Holly. Yes and no. Think about it. How much is a Terminator X Max? $2,200, right? I can get an Amazon harness for $100 or less, right? Lingenfelter box, couple $100. Now, this stuff gets to be expensive, but it is good quality. But think about it. You could easily buy that stuff for probably $400 or $500. So for, you know, $500 or $600, we can have Gen 5 capabilities with a Gen 3 ECM that we can run about, you know, in front of a 4L80E or a 4L60, something we run earlier tranny. Because you guys start playing with these motors with a stock ECM, crazy freaking money when it comes to computer controllers for these. So just an idea. I mean, hell, we might even do it just to do it. Just to say we can run a Gen 5 brand new engine on an old archaic 99 computer, okay? So that's to come. That'll probably be a little bit out, but I do have an L83 sitting around that's getting freshened up, right? Because we want to have a new one, you know what I mean? But you guys could definitely use one out of the yard. And then we're hoping maybe our friends at ICT Build will donate a set of these to us, because that'd be awesome. So let me get this valley cover off. They did us a favor on this too. This thing actually, they dimpled it under here and they put the spot we need to drill right underneath. So let me get this off real quick. We'll flip her over and show you where we gotta go. All right, look at that. So basically you can see our O-rings were doing their job there. But if you look right here, it's gonna be hard to see. This O-ring was sealing off a separate tower. Now, if you're familiar with the LT-based engine, the oil pressure sensor comes off on the front passenger side, right? So the front right of the engine. So they did us a favor and dimpled that. Now, granted, you could leave it blocked off, or we're gonna use for a turbo feed, right? Well, what about oil pressure? Two things. We're probably gonna run it off down at the bottom, or, you know, I don't really give a shit. It's gonna have oil pressure, right? It should. It'd be nice to know, though. So we'll probably tap in above the oil filter housing there. We could tee off of this, too. So nobody says we can't do that either, but let's get the drill in this hole. We can get this put back together. I just kind of wanted to show you the mock-up of how this works real quick, and then get her back on. So basically our directions say to drill a 5/16 hole, then a 3/16 to 5/16, right? And then you see this bolts over it. So they did all the hard work. Yeah, it's a separate piece, but whatever. That's how they get you, folks. But this unit here is going to convert it to a 12 by, what did I get, 12175? Yeah, so 12175 is this. So I bought this off the old eBay Performance. And let's get that out of the way. This is going to thread into here. And do what? This is going to convert us to 1/8 inch pipe. So 1/8 pipe is going to go right to our AN fitting, and that way we got our oil feed, right? And it's going to be right to our turbo ski. How freaking awesome is that? So let's get the drilling and bolt her back together. So something else I wanted to show you here. So you've seen in the past before, I've plugged off these AFM ports by using the old A36 tapered roller bearing. Now this one here, don't mistake that if you decide to play with that with the LTDs, because this is actually the feed for your oil pressure. So that's why I did not do anything with that one. And also, if you decide to make these port injection, that is the roller for your high pressure fuel pump. You gotta make sure you plug that dude off too. So we did do a little video on this thing, throwing it, this whole motor together back a few months back. I'll drop it in the description. But as for that aspect, you see what we did there. Let me show you how to put this thing back together, and then we'll have oil. Again, for the user-friendly standpoint, they made this super slick. You know, you got it cut out, push your O-ring in there, and then they give you new bolts, and honestly, you won't even realize them tapered portions are right there. It's gonna be all hidden just like that. So, how freaking slick. ICT Build it for the win, guys. Love these guys. Well, there's the end result of our oil pressure sender. We got that in there. I did change to a brass one. The aluminum one I bought was, well, I bought the wrong thread. Good thing I had a spare. And then we got that all-star line we showed you earlier on. Now, obviously, we know we got to purge the oil system, guys, but you'll see that at a later time, of course, when we go to start this unit. And by all means, the next video, we're starting this. I promise you that. So, but that didn't turn out too bad. I'll probably put an insulated P-clamp here just so it ain't chafing on the head. Realistically, it should all move together, and them urethane mounts are, they're good and tight. Oh, you know what time it is, guys. I love me some fresh corn in the evening. Well, other than my mishap of dumping more fuel on the ground than in the damn fuel tank, I think it's time to purge this thing. So you're asking yourself, Brian, you ain't got no battery, you ain't got no wiring. Well, you got to be creative when you're working on junk, all right? So we have a metal frame, right? We have a negative cable. We have a positive cable. Our fuel pumps are grounded to the frame. So in theory, we hook this dude somewhere on metal. We hook this dude up to these wires here. Now, yes, they are black and red. Yes, you're like, Brian, people are gonna get confused. Well, it's my truck, so it is what it is. But this is one 450, this is two 450s. So we got like 900 liters per hour. So that's like all the liters per hour to make like at least like 2 million horsepower, at least. So we should be good. We got enough fuel. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna shove those lines into a Gatorade bottle, and then I'm gonna touch these onto that dude. and we're gonna see if we got fuel. Who's ready?
All right, we used the Sunoco bottle instead. So, all right, let's try this. So I got a ground just hooked up to this ABS thing. Now this ABS module thing is getting out of here at some point, but I did just use it to kind of hang that stuff to, you know, it'll be fine. But we got our switch, it's got to turn power on, the pump should come on. Now I am doing one at a time to verify they both work, right? And then also we're doing this to flush the system. And you're saying, yes, but do you want to flush it through your fuel rails? Honestly, hopefully, it should be clear. All right, I blew everything out. I did brake clean them, blow them out with air, but I also want to run the fuel system through all the lines. So yeah, there is some naysayers about the injectors being there, and it'll be fine. It'll be fine. Okay, so let's see what happens. Oh, I hear noises. I hear noises. Oh yeah. Guys, that's what we're looking for. All right, so let's try the other pump. One works, right? So that's one pump. Now, we don't want to do both because I don't, you know, that's a whole lot of fuel. We don't want to waste all that. I'm just kidding, put it back in. So, ready? Second pump is pumping. That is freaking awesome, guys. Hell yeah. That is a freaking win in my book. There's been a long road plumbing this thing. If you guys have ever plumbed a complete build, it sucks. It does. It really does. And I've been trying to make it entertaining for you guys, but it's been rough. So I appreciate you guys tagging along for this crap like this. I mean, it is entertaining to some aspect, but for me, it sucks plumbing it. So I didn't show you making all the hoses, all the ends, and everything like that. But on that note, guys, we got a fuel system working. Dual 450s mounted. Hell yeah, all the fuel. Front clip is back on. Looks like a fine little S10 again. And with that stock hood, you'll never know the difference, right? So, you've seen all this stuff here. You've seen us plumb everything. On that note, guys, make sure you like, subscribe, share all that good stuff. We'll see you on the next one.